Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Lee Richards, as Greg said, and it's the last session of the day, so hopefully I don't want to keep you from your beverages, and try to make it entertaining, informative, hopefully both. I'm going to use note cards for the first portion, so I keep on task. So, manufacturing architect, who am I? Primarily, my focus for Owens Corning is integrating, defining, and architecting level 3 and level 4 systems. So if you're familiar with the ISA 95 model. Level 3 is more or less MES systems, what used to traditionally be known as MES, now MOM, Manufacturing Operations Management. Level 4 is ERP systems. I work with others in the group that focus more on levels 1 and 2, and then others yet that work on emerging technologies such as data mining and associated analytics. But I also have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and when they ask me what I do at work, I give a slightly different answer. I say that I draw pictures, I ask questions, and I identify and quantify risk. So 2 out of 3 of those are reasonably easy for them to understand. The risk bit, tougher to explain. The way I usually explain it is doing a little bit of safety education at home. So my wife loves to put pot holders on the stove because she is positive it's always off when she puts the pot holder on the stove, right? So the impact, the probability of that pot holder catching on fire because one of the stove hot plates is on is pretty low. Probability is low, impact's pretty high. So that's what that's the way I try to explain it to them. Mama shouldn't do that. But that's what I also do is really try to understand the risk profile of the technologies that we have, technologies that we integrate, technologies that we get into the ecosystem of Owens Corning. Why am I here? Overnight, last night in Toledo, Ohio, we broke the record for the day in terms of the low. It was minus 14 degrees F. And here, when I woke up this morning, it was 61 degrees Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit here, not the other 4-letter word. So that's one of the reasons I'm here. But aside from the weather, I'm here for a conversation. Most of what I'll share with you is things that we are working on, but also elements of our strategy that an evolving strategy. So it's stuff that we're working on, stuff that in some cases is near completion, or in some cases, stuff that we're just at the beginning. So I'm really looking for your feedback. You can hold questions to the end, or if there's something that's unclear or you'd like to give your perspective on, please feel free to grab a mic, or we have a small enough group, maybe you can just speak up. One other thing is, in hearing conversations over the last couple days around big data and cloud and so on, many times I have heard the phrase that our operators would never be able to get this information. Our operators would never be able to do this, being that humans wouldn't be able to do the various aspects, advantages that cloud and big data and other technologies give us. And I think that's true. And we are looking at those technologies. Mobility is a bit different. Mobility is about the people. And I'm here to really talk about the people side of mobility, even different than social, which is really about groups, not individuals. Mobility is about the individual, because once you get the information, you've done all the sausage making in the background to get the information to the users. If they don't use it, it's worthless, right? So I think mobility is unique in that aspect. Cloud and big data can give you advantages, even if people don't use it from an analytics standpoint, because they can drive other processes and systems. Mobility needs the user to use them. So I'm really here to talk about the people side of mobility. All right. Owens Corning celebrated 75 years last year. We were formed as a joint venture between Owens, Illinois, and Corning Glass in 1938. And we started as a result of really an accident. We were trying to make glass blocks, which is what Owens, Illinois did at that time, and ended up maybe making glass fiber. And that was really the foundation of products that we made then and still make today. Roughly described, and you can read the details on the board, but roughly we do two different things with glass. Either we take glass and we put a few things on it, but we mix it with air. And turns out when you have glass fiber mixed with air, it makes an unbelievably good insulator. So we produce insulation. And then we take the glass and we mix it with sticky stuff. And when that sticky stuff hardens, it makes a great reinforcing compound. So we do that. The sticky stuff we use is asphalt. We do that in-house. We make roofing shingles. Other sticky stuff that we sell to our customers, they use polymers, and they make fiber-reinforced plastics. So that, in a nutshell, is what we do. We've got fiberglass mixed with air, insulation. Fiberglass mixed with sticky stuff gives you different forms of reinforcements. Owens Corning has had the Pink Panther as its logo for a number of years now. I think we copyrighted through MGM, so we're allowed to use the Pink Panther as our logo. So we have a lot of things that are pink, right? So we have pink as a theme. My laptop has a pink background, and so on. And one of the tenets that we've had for years now is that pink is green. Pink is sustainable. Pink is eco-friendly, right? So Owens Corning is eco-friendly. Owens Corning is sustainable. So pink is green is a concept that's pretty pervasive within Owens Corning. We feel one of the most effective ways to be sustainable is to keep our people safe. And we've been on a safety journey now for a number of years. And we've had successive decreases in our incident rate. Most recently, in 2014, we won the Green Cross Award from the National Safety Council, which is a big deal for us because we're small relative to some of the other people that have won this award. Last year, it was a company roughly 100 times our size, ExxonMobil. Year before that, it was Dow. Year before that, it was Schneider Electric. And then in 2006, it was DuPont. So companies that we've tried to emulate, we are now part of that group, and that's a pretty proud accomplishment for us. And we feel that safety really starts with our people, and part of being sustainable is being safe. So just wanted to point that out. We are on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index as well. The products that we make, we have a strong emphasis in-house on reducing our footprint, using less. But we find that using less is only half of the equation. So we've also started an initiative in the last year of increasing our handprint. So increasing our ability to give back to the community, increasing our ability to positively impact as opposed to reducing the negative we do, actually increasing the positive we do. So that's pretty important to us as well. Most importantly with our products, that's different from a lot of other products, is that when we make those products and they are used, so when insulation is used, it almost creates energy efficiency forever. Well, okay, not forever, but for many years, the life of a house, right? When our solutions go into fiber-reinforced plastics and replace steel, for example, same strength, sometimes better strength, it decreases the cost to build. So we found that our applications, as we try to reduce our footprint to create them, their use, the more use that people have for these applications, the more sustainable it is. I talked about how we use insulation from a legal entity standpoint. We're divided into composites, roofing, and then insulation. All right. So I said mobility in manufacturing is really about the people. It's about connecting people. It's about connecting people to things like other people, things like systems, and things like information. So my presentation today is really focusing on mobility in terms of the people that use these devices on the shop floor. People like operators, people like maintenance personnel, people who are on the shop floor 24/7. Not so much their leaders in the office space that would fall into the BYOD category from our standpoint that Greg has referred to. A key tenet that we follow in bringing mobility to the shop floor is making it easy. If it's not easy, people are not going to use it. And again, if they don't use it, it has no value. So the way that we generate business value from these solutions is try to make it as easy as possible. A few other people have referred to KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. But if it's simple, it's not enough. There's lots of simple things, and when those simple things integrate, they become complex things. So I would suggest that KISS for us is keep it stupid simple. Keep it real simple. Give people what they need when they need it. Try to use alerting as much as possible. Don't have them look for the information. Let the information come to them. So then all they need to do is to make a decision. Right? Find out a better way to work. Do it quicker. Do it faster. Do it more efficiently. Do it more safely. We also see manufacturing and mobility as being a bridge. A lot of people have talked about, over the last few days, millennials, and that's sort of the next workforce. Those are people that are coming into the workforce anew. And then we've also talked about a number of people leaving the workforce, right? I think the Kirk Goins from Kamau, I think, who had a presentation earlier today, referenced the Pew Research Center. And roughly 10,000 people will be turning 65 today. And then tomorrow, there'll be another 10,000 people turning 65. And 6 months after that, each day of those 6 months, it's 10,000 people. And that goes on for 19 years. Right? So there's a lot of people leaving, which means that there are a lot of people coming into the workforce in many cases. We see manufacturing in mobility and manufacturing, rather, as being a bridge between the people that are leaving and the people that are coming in. The people that are leaving, we want to give them the information without them having to go to the office, to the printer, to print standard operating procedures to work a machine. We want them to not write stuff on paper, to put it on an aggregate sheet of paper, to then type it into a computer. Just do it right there. We want them to move. Right? You want to move, you want to be healthy, but you don't need to make unnecessary movement to go get stuff as you interact with the machine that they're working on. We want them to have the ability to use these mobile devices right where they are. Get the information they need from it, consume information, but also put the information they need directly into the device without having to deal with paper. So as much as possible, try to eliminate paper. What you see up here is my attempt to bridge last year's presentation. Jim Beilstein, also from Owens Corning, had put this slide up last year without the stars. And this was sort of the start of our vision for mobility in manufacturing. And I'm pleased to say that everything that has a star by it, which is roughly half a dozen, are things that we're actively working on. And again, as I referenced at the beginning, some of them are further along, some of them are just getting started. But things like monitoring product information and delivery, where we are working actively in right now, it's a business unit, 7 plants in 6 different countries. The way that they monitor product information and delivery today is they don't. They don't know where they are on a 100 pallet production run. They don't know if they're on the 95th pallet or the 59th pallet. They don't know if there are partial pallets left that need to be accommodated closer to the end of the production run. They don't have that visibility. So it's not like in this case we're making it better. We're giving them something they don't even have today. Threshold-based alerts. I talked about alerts. We're not trying to give people more information that they need to manage. We want to really manage them on an alert basis. We give them something that requires a decision, requires an action. That's what they do. Electronic certificates of analysis. In a lot of cases, especially in our composites division, we provide certificates of analysis as a quality statement to our customers. Having these be electronic helps us manage production better, manage hold material better, make sure that the stuff that we're sending out the door is the right stuff. KPIs, yeah, just trying to bring a greater level of understanding of where people are in a shift. Where people are in a shift compared to the last shift. Trying to bring the visibility, trying to create a little bit of excitement, competition within the shop floor. Plant efficiency goes along with that. Inventories are another aspect. Again, currently, to get inventories in the same situation with the 7 plants, 6 countries, they would need to go to an office. They would need to log on to the business system, try to figure it out. We don't want them to do that. They don't need to do that. We have the infrastructure in place so that they can get the information when they need it in 10, 15 seconds. We talked about alerts. Production statuses, it ties with KPIs. What are the statistics, the production statistics of my shift, of my day, of that product run compared to the last time it ran, et cetera. All these things are things that we expect to give them on the mobile device. And again, at the end of the day, in the center picture, there's a whole bunch of equipment, and besides a few of those pieces of equipment is people. And it comes back to, we're really trying to make it as easy as possible so that people use it, get value out of it. This one's a bit of an eye chart, so let me try to give some perspective on what this is. There are 8 categories: users, content delivery, et cetera. And there are 2 colored dots. The blue dot is BYOD. And it's BYOD exactly like Greg had mentioned it and how you would traditionally think of BYOD, right? It's using your device that you bought to access company information for the company that you work for, right? So that's what BYOD is in this context, and I think it's a traditional definition. The pink dot, the M, is the mobility for manufacturing, and we believe it's distinctly different. There's some commonality, and what we're trying to show here is the differences and the commonalities between the two. As I said at the beginning, this is an evolving portion of our strategy, and this was actually done 2 months ago. And we already see areas that we may need to move a bit differently than what this would suggest. But this is our initial thinking on the differences between mobility on the shop floor and BYOD. So please feel free to jump in with comments or questions. I'm just going to start from the top and go down the categories. So for users, we divided into Owens Corning employees and not Owens Corning employees. And we feel at this moment, while there are initiatives to give suppliers access to our systems and customers access to our systems, at this moment, our focus is really on OC employees, both from a BYOD perspective as well as from a mobility and manufacturing perspective. Content delivery, again, mobile apps have a lot of advantages based on the mobility platform that we've chosen and the fact that this is resident on the local area network. This mobile platform is going to be on the local area network in the plants to get the rich user experience that an app would provide. We don't think we need to go to an app. We think we can get by with using browser-based access and HTML5 development to give the richness to that user experience. Current thinking, I think there will be situations that we will have apps. There'll be purchased apps. There may be in-house developed apps. But at this moment, we feel that for the use cases that we're currently seeing, browser-based access is sufficient and fast and usable. Content sensitivity. So OC non-confidential information as well as confidential information is something we would supply. Just one thing to mention here. In order for BYOD to work, the BYOD device needs to connect to the Owens Corning network, right? Because most of the data we're talking about here is manufacturing data that is in our data centers and in our plant data centers. It's not stuff in the cloud. So if BYOD needs to connect, they need to connect first into the Owens Corning network to be able to get the data. So if there are, again, staff people, office people in the plants that want to connect, we are not providing devices for them. They can use the BYOD programs that we have. They can connect in through what IT would provide, mechanisms that IT would provide. Once they're in, now their user role will define the level of access just like anyone else. But we're not accounting for the people that are in the offices. Again, this is people on the shop floor specifically. And of course, if you're on the shop floor, you are connected to a wireless access point that has the Owens Corning network, just like, so you have the same level of access on the mobile device as you would with the laptop. And that's how you would go to market, so to speak. Access to the OC network, again, we're talking about the pink dot really being on the internal Owens Corning network. Right? So that's the way they access data, and they have any level of access based on their role. BYOD is not allowed on the Owens Corning network. They need to come in some fashion. They need to VPN in. They need to have doing some new stuff with containers, having a secure container so they can access in, what have you. But they're not on the Owens Corning network. So again, a bit of a difference there. Mobile devices. So again, this is 2 months old. We will probably go with other form factors other than tablets. But at this moment, the primary form factor is tablets. And if you look at the slide that I had not actually seen, but I noticed it when Greg had put it up there earlier, the jump from the 2010 survey to the 2013 survey, the biggest jump was in tablets by percentage. At least that's what it looked like. So we would intend to use tablets as the primary device in the short term, knowing that, of course, yes, I'm sure other form factors. Dan Miller from AT&T, I think, has a mobile watch. So yeah, I'm sure other form factors will come into play. Mobile device ownership is very clear. We are providing devices for the shop floor people to do their work, right? We're not providing shop floor devices for staff people in R&D locations that would just fall into the BYOD program. Physical environment, I have not met anyone that has a ruggedized smartphone. I mean, everyone has a case that makes it pretty ruggedized, but not for the kind of physical environment stresses that a mobile device on the manufacturing shop floor would be under. So we would expect to harden these things. Do we purchase something that's hardened at the source by the vendor, or purchase a case that's more drop-proof than other cases? I don't know yet, but that's something we would do. So that's a bit of a difference. We have to account for the environment in the case of the mobile devices. In the case of the BYOD, it's just personal preference, right? And then network provider, the internet service provider. So again, coming into the Owens Corning network, BYOD is the only one that would come into the Owens Corning network from outside. The mobility and manufacturing would be at its core inside the Owens Corning network. The reason that I have B on the OC provided network is because we have a few different networks at Owens Corning. We have the traditional network that the laptops are on, which is also where the mobility in manufacturing would be in the pink dot. Okay? So they have full access to whatever they need to based on their role. But then we've got lower levels of access for guests and employees that bring in BYOD and so on. So in those cases, that's also an Owens Corning provided network. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy there, but in terms of how we expect to use it, it's quite clear. The mobile devices and manufacturing will be on the same network as the laptops. The BYODs will not. All right, so that, try to summarize, that's, we got feedback from a variety of sources to try to put this together, as well as internal thinking in terms of what makes sense. But it is an initial strategy, and it is evolving. Mobility is evolving, so is this. So then just a few highlights. I won't talk about the first one, because out of this 4-day conference, there was one entire day dedicated to it. So I think that we beat that horse to death. Infrastructure is key because we are using the Owens Corning network. We are using the internal network. So you need to access that internal network. And while in the office space, we've had it for many, many years, many years. It's relatively new for us to provide that level of coverage on the shop floor. But that is key, because if you can't access it, you can't do your work. It won't function, right? Makes it even more important because we're not doing apps. So our ability in the short term. So our ability to store the data is limited. So we really need those networks to be as robust as they are in the office. So that's why infrastructure is key. Wireless access is key. Mobile application platform is also, I would say, equally as key. Because if you can't produce the data, you can't connect to your ERP and your SCADA system and your historian and the manual input and your analytic solution and contextualize the data so that you can do further manipulations on it to create the single alert to the user, it's worthless. You need a manufacturing application platform to be able to do some level of that integration that I referenced, but also be able to provide the content in a web-based way, HTML5 eventually, et cetera. That's key. Enable real-time feedback loop to the shop floor. Again, the paper-based processes, the 7-plant, 6-country example I'd given you earlier, does not have a real-time feedback loop. I would argue they don't have a feedback loop. Because when you write it on paper and you file it, then the only use for that is when there is a specific issue in the future. Let's say you create 100 different sheets of paper. The likelihood of you getting an issue to go back to that paper is probably, 5 at most. So that's 95 pieces, 95% of the data you've collected is invisible because you've written it down, you've filed it away. So really, the real-time loop is speaking to that aspect. Along with the next one, eliminate those paper-based processes as much as possible. We're going for ease and effectiveness. I have my mobile device here, but I also did things on traditional, old-fashioned ways, right? I wrote some notes on a smart card, on a note card. So we're really going for effectiveness. Some things we will not be able to eliminate by paper. It wouldn't make sense, and then we don't do that. So we're really trying to balance between the advantages that the technology gives us, but the effectiveness of when not to use it. We think that's important. And then integrating mobile sensors into work processes. This one's a bit more difficult if you don't do apps, but it's still possible. And it's evolving as well, right? So getting access to your sensors from a browser on the device is getting better and better. But this is some of the things that we expect to do with it. Greg mentioned collaboration. Yes. So when we have experts in Central Ohio that are needing to talk to resources in the plant in China or the plant in India, where previously they would need to fly and now they can show it to them on their camera on the device, that's pretty good. And that's an advantage, and that's definitely a big area that we expect to use it. Going back to the wireless access that we're putting on the shop floor is higher bandwidth, right? So it will support the video stuff that we're expecting to do with the sensors. Recording safety incidents. Currently, most of that's paper-based. That eventually goes into a computer. In this case, you can do it right there. You can take a picture of it. You can document it. You can submit it. So it's quicker. It's more real time. But it's also richer because you've taken a picture and incorporated it as close to the incident happening as possible. So again, just a richer experience. I started out at the beginning saying that safety is a key tenet at Owens Corning, and we want to make sure that we extend that into the use of mobile devices on the shop floor. So we do not allow, we highly discourage our employees inside or outside work, it's not allowed inside work, from using mobile phones, texting, even talking, even hands-free when they're moving in a car, if they're driving, of course, right? So we want the same to be true when they're walking. We don't want them doing things on the mobile device when they're moving. There are apps to be able to do that. We expect to take full advantage of those apps. So if you're moving, you can't use it. You have to stop to use the device. So again, just as integrating mobile sensors, which are an integral part of mobile devices, into the processes that we're changing. Device agnostic development for sourcing flexibility. Right, so again, since it's browser-based, we're testing on the traditional browser platforms that are available in Internet Explorer, Safari, Firefox, et cetera. So it'll work on any device, and that'll allow us to really then rely on IT to tell us, at this moment, what device do you recommend, right? Because our stuff has been tested on any of them. So it gives us nice sourcing flexibility in that regard. So that's what we're doing to date, and some examples. Looking ahead, I started out by saying that mobility on the shop floor is probably one of the few elements that's completely dependent on people using it, and that's how we gain value from the solution. We're not going to use technology for technology's sake, or because it's cool, though sometimes being cool does make it attractive. We are constantly looking at what the business case is, what the values of using it. Like I said, it's got to be effective. If it makes more sense to use paper, use paper. And then, yeah, I think the change management for us is large. So how are people going to use it? How will their work process transform once you take away that paper? I've used paper for 30 years. Can I still use it? Yes, but not in these cases. And then how do you manage that transition? The new guys coming into the workforce, the millennials that we talked about, right? Easier, no transition. They do that. They've done that since they were 2 or 1. But the people that have been there longer, how do you highlight the advantages that you don't need to walk to the printer anymore? You don't need to walk to the room with the one computer where someone else could be using it for email anymore. It's right here. So I think that work process transformation, it has to be balanced between the advantages that mobility provides, but then the other side of, hey, I just don't like it. Well, okay, what can we do to make you like it? How do you make it easy? How do you keep it stupid simple? A form factor we talked about, starting with tablets, but I'm sure that will expand. Yeah, and then integration, right? So then this is really a technology bullet compared to everything else that I've said. It's how do you use this mobile application platform, which we have now, to integrate into other things that are on the periphery of what people on the shop floor may be concerned with, but in some cases could be important. Emergency orders, emergency inventory orders where you don't have inventory, but you need to produce it today. Making sure that they know that and that has the right level of criticality for their schedule for the day, for example. Yeah, system agnostic user experience. So really try to keep it as flexible as we can because it is a very rapidly evolving market. And again, referencing the slide from the 2010 to 2013 study that ARC had done, dramatic increase in a variety of areas of using mobile devices. So really try to keep it as flexible as we can. Mobile HMIs. We are not planning on doing this currently, but it is evolving. I think it's going to be a value-based decision in terms of do we do it, do we not, how much do we do it. There are bigger concerns in a control room. You have context. You see cameras, you see a bunch of SCADA screens. You're used to that context, so when something is wrong, you don't even think about it, but you're looking at other things to determine, is that wrong thing really wrong? Is that alarm really an alarm? You don't even know you're doing it, but you are looking at other things. How do you provide that same context if it now alarms on a device? So the mobile HMI has, I think, challenges that we'll need to work through. I think it's coming. I don't think we're there yet. So with that, thank you for your attention, and be happy to take questions.